An important aspect of life is that you as a person are honest with yourself and your goals. Trying to convince yourself that you're doing something selfless when in fact what you're doing is quite selfish is never a good thing. Hello there guys, Billybo10K here, bringing you my first ever professional video game review. In these reviews, I'll be taking a look at recently released games and giving my take on them based on my playtime as a casual consumer. I aim to provide the view of an average consumer, someone who plays a game and gives their thoughts based solely on their experiences and playtime. I'm not an expert in the industry after all. Today we'll be taking a look at the third and final game of the Tomb Raider reboot trilogy, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which was released on September the 14th, available for the PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4, to see whether it holds up to the previous installments and, as the final game in the trilogy, whether it wraps up Lara's journey to become the Tomb Raider. As of this review, I have completed the main campaign, finished all the optional challenge tombs, and completed all the side quests I naturally came across, though there are a few I missed that you can only access after getting a specific costume in-game. My total playtime was 17 hours, with 4 to 5 of those hours dedicated to side quests and optional tombs, with the campaign itself taking around 12 hours, give or take. I played through Shadow on the PC version of the game, so I'm unaware as to how the game runs on PS4 or Xbox One, but aside from one instant of the game crashing due to playing it for around 6 hours, the game's performance was fine. However, I'd recommend either lowering the game settings or playing the game in smaller bursts as opposed to massive 7-hour play sessions, unless your PC was built to handle games at their best. So firstly, let's take a look at the narrative. If you're interested in going into the game blind in terms of story, and you just want to hear my thoughts on the gameplay, skip to the time on screen now, as I'll be discussing heavy spoilers for Rise of the Tomb Raider, and light spoilers for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Shadow picks up after the events of Rise, with Lara and her best friend Jonah tracking down various groups belonging to the nefarious Trinity organization, who was revealed to have killed Lara's father in Rise of the Tomb Raider, with Lara effectively swearing vengeance on the organization for taking away her chance at a normal life. The game starts with a rather disturbing crash sequence where Jonah and Lara are separated, before flipping back a few days to Cozumel, an island in Mexico where Lara and Jonah are exploring an old ruin. They are attempting to track down Dr. Dominguez, a Trinity official who has been conducting digs in the area. After a brief segment of tailing the Doctor, we discover that he is actually the leader of the Trinity organization, and thus the man who ordered the death of Lara's father. Lara enters the ruins before Trinity and finds the Knife of Shakshel, a mystical dagger that we discover has the power to change the world if combined with the box of Ixchel. However, upon taking the knife, Lara accidentally triggers a Maya apocalypse with a tsunami destroying the Mexican town they were staying in minutes later. From there, Lara travels to the jungles of Peru in search of the box of Ixchel, which leads to the events of the game unfolding as they do. Throughout the game, Lara will come across many different characters who will help or hinder her mission, ultimately becoming embroiled within an ancient city's civil war. The story of Shadow tries to add a layer of depth to Lara's entire outlook on exploring, by showing the negative effects that tomb raiding has on the people she comes across. But ultimately, it all ends up being about Lara and how she can really do no wrong. She's a privileged, British, extremely upper-class white girl who makes everyone else in the game listen to her way of thinking, and sometimes it comes across as frustrating from a player's standpoint because she's intruding on an entire civilization's way of life and forcing her ideals onto them for better or for worse. When the game finished, I felt it wrapped up its plot threads in a sufficient manner, but I still don't see how Lara's experiences have morphed her into the Tomb Raider we all know and love from the PlayStation 1 era, though perhaps that's a testament to how Lara is arguably more fleshed out as a character in the new games. Still, Lara does come across as hypocritical when she spouts off about the main villain committing murder, when she herself has murdered thousands of people across the 3 games. Either way, the story was fine, but it was effectively a copy-paste of Rise of the Tomb Raider's plot. Lara explores a foreign country with Jonah, Lara finds a lost settlement of people, then solves their problem, but has to be wary as there's a supernatural force known as the Yashil, which play a similar role to the Deathless ones from Rise, with a small endgame difference that I won't spoil, but made the Yashil feel more interesting overall when the game was done. You need to go into this game knowing that everything will revolve around Lara, even when the story tries to convince you that not everything revolves around Lara, because everything is about Lara. Where Shadow of the Tomb Raider is at its best is definitely its gameplay. Despite the toolset from past games returning and not getting too much of an upgrade aside from the ability to rappel and wall run, which I believe were not in the past games, the way that Lara traverses the environments in Shadow is nothing short of exhilarating. It is very clear that Shadow focuses more on the exploration of the jungle setting than it does on combat segments like the first two games, and this is probably the best change that the developers could have gone with. Tomb Raider games have always been about exploring ancient ruins, solving puzzles, and then having a few brief combat scenarios to test Lara's abilities. Here in Shadow, exploration is rewarding, and you're always guaranteed to find something at the end of your chosen path. And Shadow also includes a new feature known as crypts. These are smaller locations that have coffins at the end which contain armor pieces that you can craft for greater effects. These crypts are confined locations that offer a slight challenge which help to really enhance the whole scope of the land. But really, for me, the highlight of Shadow of the Tomb Raider were this game's challenge tombs. Tombs in each game rewarded Lara with new skills and abilities for each one completed, and this game is no different. However, the puzzles, setting, and overall presentation of these tombs have been moved up a notch. Each of the locations feels different and exciting, whether exploring a ship trapped deep underground, or going through a grueling trial of obsidian obstacles that look ripped out of an assault course, or climbing an underground tree that feels like it's taken from a fantasy novel. Each locale and dungeon is unique and exciting, and I enjoyed every single challenge tomb visited. And you are encouraged to take on these challenge tombs, as the skills you can earn are quite useful, with extra credit going to the revamped skill tree that lets you see just which skills are locked off via the story, which are locked off via tombs, and which you can purchase off the bat. The presentation of upgrading skills in Shadow is also so much better than that of the previous games. It's all handled on a single menu, and even color-coded for convenience. There's so many extra skills to learn, and as long as you explore, experience is plentiful, so you can learn most of the new skills before the game's end. A brand new feature of this game's exploration is that of the underwater segments. The underwater levels add a variety of gameplay that we haven't seen in the rebooted series for quite some time, and of course there's a variety of secrets and dangers under the surface waiting for you to discover them. Eels and piranhas will happily attack Lara if she strays too close, but luckily there's almost always a fast track to getting through these segments for those who don't enjoy the gameplay. I feel I'd enjoy the underwater portions more if we actually had a visible breath meter for Lara to show how much time she can stay underneath the water for, and I find the lack of such a commodity to be extremely frustrating, as it makes underwater segments a crapshoot on betting how long you can stay underwater. And I can't discuss gameplay without discussing the combat segments, as they've been a part of every Tomb Raider game. Lara has a lot at her disposal to take out opponents, and she has gotten a merciless upgrade in her arsenal of lethal attacks. She can string up Trinity soldiers in trees using her rope arrows, cause them to attack each other with poison arrows, which also kill the delirious soldier after a short amount of time, and she has her knife for stealth kills, of which there are many. Covering herself in mud allows Lara to stick to muddy walls and become invisible to the enemy, with these mud patches being placed in most locations where you fight enemies, to the point where the game clearly wants you to try and stealth your way through all these encounters. Shooting up your enemies is also a viable strategy, and you won't find yourself running out of healing items as long as you explore enough, and you should be able to plow through enemies in relative ease. In my playtime, I found myself full on materials for pretty much the entire playthrough, as I was pretty thorough in exploring my environment, so I was never left wanting for anything, though if you need extra bullets, there are merchants in the two major hub areas that you can use to purchase ammo, though be warned that the most important merchant in the game tends to move around, so you'll need to listen for drum beats in order to find her. Though I'd make it a note to kill wild animals you come across. Just like in past games, you can hunt wild animals, and they deliver experience and can provide you with useful pelts that can be used to craft the more impressive costumes in the game. Though my heart was heavy every time I put an arrow through a jaguar's eyes. The wild animals are vicious in this game, and they get quite the introduction early on, but I still feel bad for killing them, even if it's just another day in the woods for Lara. Overall, from a gameplay perspective, this game is the best in the trilogy, with its focus on exploration allowing us to view some spectacular set pieces, as well as enjoy our time raiding tombs and not getting mowed down by guns every 5 minutes like in Rise or 2013. However, the cookie-cutter story that feels copy-pasted from the previous game left a lot to be desired, and for the ending of Trinity and the trilogy, it feels a little anticlimactic. I mean, in 2013, our best friend was the reincarnation of a goddess Himiko. In Rise, we meet literal Jesus. In Shadow, we have no connection to the characters around us and feel like an outsider the whole time. At least Rise had Russian Lara. So, with everything out of the way, out of 10, what would I score this game? Overall, I give Shadow of the Tomb Raider an 8.5 out of 10. The story may be lackluster, and I do feel the story is important towards building a great narrative, but the gameplay in Shadow of the Tomb Raider is honestly top-notch and has my favorite exploration, combat, and controls that the series has to offer. It just feels so good to play. If you're looking for alternate video game recommendations, I will first point you towards Tomb Raider 2013 and Rise of the Tomb Raider if you haven't played them already. They're from the same series and are games you should definitely play if you haven't already. However, if you're looking for a more adventurous and exotic thrill, the Uncharted series is the way to go. Tomb Raider did take inspiration from Uncharted in many of its gameplay mechanics, and Uncharted is a franchise that has a lot of polish if you own a Sony console and you like going on crazy adventures. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll be reviewing the new games I play from now on, so get used to these videos as we continue throughout the year. At the moment, the next video planned will be a review of Mega Man 11 coming in the first week of October, so look forward to it. And if you haven't subscribed already, consider hitting that button to help the channel, and check out my social media links in the description. I even have my own Discord. Well, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.